record on this. Okay, the recording is going. Let me pull the chat up over here so I can see it. Move it out of my way. Okay, great. Okay, so I just have a browser window open. Everything in Rakonto runs in the browser, whether it's on your phone or whether it's on your computer. And if you've not yet set up an account, and I'll put the link here in the chat. Let me type it out. All right, so I've just put the link in the chat, and well, let's just do rakonto.io. Okay, so that will take you to the Rakonto page, which is probably just taking a little bit longer here on my computer because I'm streaming. And then what you would do if you've not yet created an account is you would click this button, sign up for trial. So everybody that signs up for a free 30-day trial of the professional version of the software. Now, this isn't software that you download, it just runs in the cloud, but you get a free 30-day trial to the professional version. And the professional version is our flagship version. It has all of the bells and whistles. And you may not need the professional version, but you at least have exposure to the features when you create an account. And then you can decide whether you want to continue using those features or just continue on forever using the free version of our software, which has a limited set of features. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into it. But when you go to sign up, this will take you to a login page, as you see here. And there are various ways that you can create accounts. You can create them using social logins. So if you have a Google account, you use Gmail, or if you have a Facebook account or even a LinkedIn account, you can click those and you can create accounts right in Rakonto. So you don't have to worry about setting up usernames and passwords. So here we've got another person joining us here. Cliff is joining us. So that's one way that you can create accounts, is just using your social logins. If you'd rather not use your social login and you just want to use your email address, then at the bottom of the screen, and on your screen, you may need to scroll down, but at the bottom of it, you'll see a button that says create a new account. And here, I would click this button, and all you need is to create an account is an email address. So let's say I type in an email address. I'm just going to put in one that I just created. And then I click the create an account button. And what that's going to do, when you put in your email address and you press create account, that's going to send you an email. So I'm going to hit this create account button. It says, okay, we've sent an email to you to confirm your account. So you put in your email address, then you go check your email. So I'm going to go here and check my email and see if I received an email yet from our Rakonto friends. Okay, so here we go. There's an email. Rakonto welcome. We'll close that. And it says, okay, please verify your account. So I just confirm my email address, make sure that it's actually me. I hit confirm. This will open up a new browser window, and then it takes me through a short wizard to onboard you onto the platform. Now, if you've already created an account, you're not going to see this wizard because you've already created one previously. But for people who are creating accounts for the first time, you'll see this onboarding process, and it's 4 simple steps. So the first step is I put in my name. So I'm just going to put in my name here. And well, that's not my phone number. It's my email address. And then I would put in a phone number. Let's see, 181. Okay, so I've got my phone number in there, and then I create my password. So I would just type in a password, and it needs to have a combination of upper and lowercase letters and special characters and that kind of a thing. So I'm going to just type in a password here and confirm it. And once I've created my password, then I can press next. So, you can put in a thumbnail of you if you want a picture of you, but it's not necessary. Basically, it's just your name, phone, and then the password, what your password's going to be. I click the next button, and then Rakonto just asks you, well, what kinds of stories are you interested in recording in Rakonto? And they could be personal and family stories, or they may be some professional or business stories, or organization stories, if you're using it for a business related purposes. For today, we're using Rakonto for life stories. And I would choose, well, I want my life story in there, and I want to put life stories of loved ones and friends. So I just choose these boxes. You can change this at any time. It's just informational. It just helps us understand how you intend to use Rakonto, so that we can continue to build a set of features that are relevant to you. So once I've done this, and you don't even have to do it, it's optional, but once I've done that, then I hit next. If I want to put links to my social media, I can do that here. I'm not going to worry about that. And if I was setting this up for an organization, I could load my company's logo here and put my organization contact information in there. I'm not using it for an organization today, so I'm done. I click finish, and now my account is created. All right, I don't need to save that. Okay, so we've now crossed over the first hurdle. We've created an account, we've set up our little profile, and now we're ready to go ahead and record or request stories. And that's what we're going to talk about for the bulk of today. But before I move on, I do want to say that at any time, if you have questions, you're more than welcome to unmute your mic and ask the question. You can put them in the chat as well. I want to make sure that we address everybody's questions throughout our time together today. So please feel at any time to interrupt me as I'm going along if you do have any questions. Now, we've just created the first, we've done the first thing. We've created an account. That was pretty simple. All right. Now, it pops up a little thing. What do you want to do? I can take a tour. This is basically just watching a video of Rakonto and its features. And I should say that we've introduced some new features since we created this video. And so we're in the process of updating this. We'll create a new video. You can add a story, create your first story. You can upgrade your plan to a paid subscription from here if you want, or you can just go in and view your library. For right now, I'm going to click this button, view my library. So basically what you have in Rakonto is you have your own library, and the library is organized into one or more collections. When you create a Rakonto account, it creates a collection for you. So I see a collection here. I can modify this collection. I can change the thumbnail that's associated with this collection. I can put in a description, so on and so forth. And I can have many collections. You might think of collections as buckets that stories are allocated into, or you might think of them as, for example, a television series, and the stories that would fall in that collection would be the different episodes in that television series. So it's just a way of kind of organizing your stories. I've got this default collection. What do I want to do? Well, there are two main ways that you can record stories in Rakonto. And this is important to understand. And they're noted on these buttons in the upper right corner of my screen. You can put in a new story where you're just recording yourself, or you're uploading videos of previous recordings that you already have. Let's say you've got some recordings of your uncle who told life stories and you want to put those in here. You can use the new story feature to upload those audio or video recordings of your uncle. The other option is request a story. What request a story allows you to do is it allows you to ask someone else to record a story, which would then appear into your library. So we're going to show you how to do each of these processes today. Before I get into that, though, let me just say one thing. Sometimes people ask me, well, can't I use Rakonto to just kind of type in my story? And the answer to that is no, unfortunately. It's not made for just typing in. And it's been done that way for a very, very specific reason. The reason is that uh, uh, there are many ways to share a written story, but it's more challenging to manage the recordings of stories, whether they're audio or video recordings. And audio and video are generally much faster than typing. In fact, recording a story in audio or video, as we have discovered, is about 30 times faster than it is writing it, either by hand or typing it in a computer. So we've really focused on the oral history element, and it's the centerpiece of everything that we do here. So what we're going to show you now is how to add a life story, and I'm going to call it a vignette, a life story using Rakonto. To do that, let's say I'm wanting to record my life story. I'm super excited. I've just created a Rakonto account, and now I click this new story button. The first thing I need to do is figure out, well, what story am I going to tell? This can be a difficult question. And oftentimes, anybody who's tried to write a life story in the past has stared at a blank screen. Where do I start? Where do I start writing this? Or stared at a blank piece of paper and like, where do I begin? And oftentimes we begin at the beginning. We start chronologically where we were born and so on and so forth. And that's totally fine. My strong recommendation to you here is that the first story you should record would be the story that you have told 1,000 times already. You've told this story so many times that your children and grandchildren are sick of you telling it. Like, hey, we've already heard this. We don't need you to hear it, but you know how to tell this story. You've told it so many times. Because you're so comfortable telling it, that's the story that you should start out with. So for me, I'm going to start out with the story of, I'm going to call it First Time Skiing. All right. Now, if you still are stumped and you don't know where to start, down below here, we have a box that has a lot of different suggestions for different stories that you may want to. There are hundreds of these in here. You can type in and try to find one, but it can be about birthdays or nicknames or Easter or preschool or recess or whatever it is. There's a ton of them in there. You can find a suggestion and use one of those. So it's just a helpful hint. And if you're still stumped and you don't know what to do, you can watch this little video, which basically says what I just told you now. Start with a story that you've told 1,000 times. All right, so this is the story about my first time skiing. So I put this in. It's a title. I can always change it at any time. Then I hit next. Then I give it a brief description. And the purpose of the description here is twofold. Number one, it kind of helps you orient your thoughts. And number two, the description will be used when you share this story with other people. They'll be able to see this description. And so I might say, Christian heads up to Strawberry Reservoir in his first attempt at cross-country skiing. So I put this in. Again, I can change this at any time, but I'm just shaping my little vignette. Then I hit next. Now, if I've already recorded this on audio or video elsewhere, I can simply drag and drop or upload the file here. But in this case, I've never recorded it before, so I want to record it in here. And you have a choice of recording audio or video. Sometimes people may feel a little bit shy on camera. They don't want their faces to appear. And so maybe audio is appropriate. And other people don't care and they just go ahead and do video. So I'm going to go ahead and choose video. And I will need to choose a different camera because I'm using my camera for Zoom right now. So let me choose a different camera. Let's see. Okay, there we go. There's my camera. And now I'm going to go ahead and look into my camera and I'm going to tell my story. You can do this from a phone or you can do this from your desktop computer as long as you have a camera or a microphone. Let me make sure I got the right microphone. Yep, I do. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start recording. All right, I'm going to tell you the story about the first time that I went skiing. I was 12 years old. I was in Boy Scouts, and for our winter camp, we went cross-country skiing near Strawberry Reservoir here in Utah, a couple of hours, I should say, away from our home. I'd never been skiing in my life, and I was very nervous about skiing, but we had someone show us how to ski, and I gradually gained up the courage to go up a hill and then come down a hill. Well, I became overconfident and I went way up to the top of a hill and started coming down this hill, and I gained too much speed and I didn't know how to turn. I fell into a ditch and I ripped my pants from the very front to the very back of my pants. And being a stupid kid, I didn't pack any more pants. So the rest of the trip, I had to run around with a pair of split pants, and it was so embarrassing. But I really, really enjoyed the skiing. All right, so now I have recorded this little story into my uh, uh, computer. I can play it back. All right, I'm going to tell you. And if I like the story, I can save it. If I don't like it, I can re-record it. And I can try it again. Maybe I wasn't happy or I left out a key detail. For example, I forgot to tell about I not only split my pants, but then I spilled hot chocolate all over myself during dinner. But I'll just leave it for now, and I'll go ahead and save it. Now that I have saved the file, Rakonto is going to run us a process. It's going to convert this video. It's going to run some things on it. It takes a couple of minutes to do this conversion. And then once the conversion is done, then I can go in and I can view the video that I've just recorded. I can also view the transcript of the video. It says it's finished now. So if I go here to first time skiing, here's my video. First time skiing. Here's my description that I typed up. I can view the video here. All right, I'm going to tell you this. And you can see that it's automatically captioned this video. If I want to, I can edit the transcript of this here if the captions are not correct. If it didn't, for example, here it didn't capitalize Boy Scouts. All right, so I can go ahead and quickly check that up. And if I want to, then I can save it, and then I'll refresh it later. So that is basically how you record a story into Rakonto. Very, very simple, straightforward. Then the next question is, well, what if I want to share this with my family? How do I do that? Well, there are two steps that you must take in order to share your stories. The first one is actually back in the collection itself. And you only have to do this once in the collection. But I'm going to go back to the collection. I can navigate to my collection here. There's a little link. This story here belongs in this collection, Christian Napier's collection. I can see this collection. And if I want to share this with people, I can press the share button here. If I scroll down, I see the share button. And then it shows me who can I share this with. There are two things that you can do to share. Number one, if you want to keep this collection private, meaning you don't want anybody to access it, but you just want certain individuals to have access to it, you can leave the collection as private. Oh, there's another person, Janice just entered. You can leave the collection as private, and then you can put in the email addresses of the people that you would like to share this collection with. So you can just type in their email addresses here and press this invite button, and that will invite them to view the collection. So if I, for example, want to share it with my mother, I can click my mother or put my mother's email address in here, and then I can press invite. Okay, then my mother will be sent an email, and then she'll be able to say, oh, I want to see this collection. She'll be able to click on that link in the email, and she'll be able to come in and view this collection. The other option is I can make this public, and if I make this public, then anybody can view it. I can press this button to copy the link, and I can take this link and I can put this link on social media, or I can send it to a lot of people in an email, whatever I want to do. And then anybody who has the link can come in and see this collection. So the important thing for you to remember is that you have complete control over how you would like your stories to be shared, whether it's with just certain specific individuals or with anybody who has the link that you've given them to come in and view the collection. So as I mentioned a few moments ago, this is the first step. You only have to do this one time per collection. But then once you've done this, you also have the story itself. Now, this story, whenever I record a story, or whenever you record a story or upload a story into Rakonto, it comes in with a status of draft. You'll be able to see down here on the screen, there's a little toggle switch that shows that this is draft. Stories that are in draft can only be seen by you. They can't be seen by anybody else. If I want other people to see this story that I have in the collection, then I can toggle this draft and change the status to published. Once I've changed the status to published, then anybody who has access to this collection, noted here, or if it's public, will be able to see the story that I just published. So that's an important thing to remember. It's collections are shared, stories within those collections are published, and when they are published, they're visible to anybody with that has access to the collection in which they belong. Desiree's asking a question here. Is it possible to edit your video, embed photos or other videos before you finalize your video? And my answer to that question is not yet, but it's coming soon. So let me explain what you can do right now. So right now, I've got my video here, first time skiing. If you'll notice, there's a button that allows me to download this video. Now, when I download this video, I can download either the original version or I can download the optimized version. And all that means is, sometimes if you get a lot of videos in that are in different file formats, it can be difficult to edit them all together because they're all in these different formats. Optimized video is basically what you see here on this screen, and it's all in an MP4 format. So everything is encoded the same. So you have this option. Then you can take this file right now and put it into video editing software, and you can add photos and so on and so forth. Our plan is to stand up the video editing capabilities by the first half of next year, so that you'll be able to actually do that in the story itself. Okay. And Laura's got a question as well. I'll get to that question in just a minute, but what I want to show you here that follows along with Desiree's question is, well, what do you want to have? What if you want to have photos? Okay, you'll notice here on the, as I'm sharing my screen, there's a menu, there's a choice, there's a bunch of menu options here associated with the story. We've already shown you the transcript. You can go in here, you can edit the captions. One other thing that we are introducing later this year, so it will be part of our next release before the end of the year, is the ability to view this with or without the timestamps, and also the ability to export it to various file formats. So text file, Word, PDF, those kind of things. Right now, you can take this and you can copy and paste it into something else, but it's got all the timestamps in it. So we're working on an enhanced editor. There are also things that you can do to associate people here, places and timelines. So people, you can manually add records. I didn't mention anybody else other than myself here, but let's say I mentioned my grandfather. I could put in Dior Sorensen here and add him as a person in Rakonto associated with this story. If Dior is already passed on, I could put a link to his record in Family Search or in Ancestry or something like that, and then save it. And what that allows me to do is in my collections, I can actually see, well, who are the different people mentioned in these stories, and I can filter my my collection based on the stories that people are mentioned in. Same thing with places I could pin on the map. For example, Strawberry Reservoir, and add that as a place in Rakonto. And I could look up the where Strawberry is on a map. Let's see if I can find it. There it is. Wasatch County, the US. I can create this place, and now it's on a map. And again, in the collections, I can see, oh, what are all the stories that mention Strawberry Reservoir? And then I can go and view those stories that mention Strawberry Reservoir. Same thing with the timelines. I could put in here, when did this happen? So maybe this happened back in this happened in 1979. So I would find 1979, and the date was, I think, in December. So let's say it was the 15th of December. And I can put in here, first time skiing. And so I can add these things. It's not necessary, but these are ways to kind of enhance the consumption of stories. You can put in these different things to make it really, really cool. And then you can add photos as well. So this is what I wanted to get to, which the question about that Desiree asked is, what if I want to add some photos? Well, I can go here. I can upload some photos. Let's see if I've got anything that I can upload. And you can select a whole bunch of photos. So let's say I choose these photos, I put these in, and now these photos they'll be visible. Well, I'll just leave it for now. You can also add files. So if you had links to certain documents or things so you wanted to upload, you could all associate with the story. So what this does, with the photos, for example, when you're doing your navigation, you can say, oh, that's a cool picture. What stories are associated with this photo, So back here in the collection, when I go to photos, I'll see these photos here, and you can see the link that, oh, this photo is in the story First Time Skiing. And I go to there, and then it will take me to the story, and then I can watch that story, and I can see the other photos that are associated with that story, and so on and so forth. All right, so that's kind of the user consumption experience. Now back to Laura's question, what does the email look like that the recipient receives with the link or video? If I go back to, oh my goodness, this little menu's in the way. If I go back here to my email account, the one that I said, it says, no reply from Rakonto. It says someone shared a story collection with you. So Christian's invited you to watch this collection, and I can say, hit this button that says take a look now, and then that will take me to the collection. Now, let's see, where was I? So I was back here with my First Time Skiing. So they would come into Rakonto and they would view the collection. And when they view it, it will appear as it does for you, but they won't have all of these buttons because they're not editing, they're just viewing. So they'll be able to see the transcript and the people and the places and the timelines and the photos and so on and so forth, but they can't make any changes to it, right? They're just going in there and they're viewing the content that you shared with them in the collection. So that was a good question, Laura. Thank you very much. A couple of other things to keep in mind with these stories. We don't really put any kinds of conditions on how many collections that you have. And so, you can organize these however you want. You want to create one collection for your mother's story and another collection for your father's story. You want a collection for both of their stories, whatever you want to do, that's totally fine. You can have different collections. If you have multiple collections, you're like, oh, I put this story in this collection, but I want to move it to another collection. You can just press this change collection button and move it to a different collection. So if I push this here, I can choose a different collection. I've only got one collection in here, so it doesn't really matter. A couple of other things to keep in mind. Here, Laura entered again. She must have dropped out. A couple of other things to keep in mind here. Let's say I am recording my mother's story and I've asked her questions and I've got files in there and I'm recording things. And then I'm like, oh, my mom's got some photos and I want to include those in this story. Like, how would I do that? Well, what you can do is you can press this little button that says request content. And what this will do is it will actually send my mom an email and saying, hey, mom, can you upload some photos to this story? You know, so I'd say, hi, mom, can you upload some photos? And then I might give it a title called Mom's Photos or something like that. And I can even give her a deadline, because if my mom is, you know, like, well, she doesn't get around to it, I can give her a deadline and say, mom, it's got to be done by this time. And then I can specify what kind of content that I want, whether I want files or images. And for my mom, if I'm asking her to upload photos, I might just say, I just want images from her. And then what this does is it generates a link and a QR code. And what I can do is I can put in my mother's email address here and, mom, and add this to it. And then I can share and close this. And what's going to do is actually going to send an email to my mom with this link asking her to upload these files. So if I share and close this, then my mom will hopefully eventually get an email here. Let's see how quickly the email gets sent. It might take a few minutes. All right, well, while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to paste the link that it created into the browser. So I'll just pretend that my mom just clicked the button. And then it says, oh, this is what she wants. Mom, can you upload some photos? So she goes here and then she just drags and drops the photos in. It's like, oh yeah, photos, you need photos. Okay, let me get you some photos. So she goes on her computer and she says, okay, I want these photos here. So she'll just drag and drop those photos in. And then she can put in her name and email address. So, mom, and the email address here, and then submit it. So that's all mom has to do. And then the photos automatically are then uploaded into my story. So that's a really easy way to get images and documents from other people. You just say, hey, can you send me this stuff? Mom doesn't have to create an account if she doesn't want to. So I'm just going to close this out. And then when I come back into my Rakonto thing, let me just go ahead and refresh this. Then I should see, here's the other photos that my mom uploaded in here, right? So that's a very easy way to get more content from people, to include them in your Rakonto story. All right, so that's the first way that you can use to get content into Rakonto, by recording it yourself or uploading recordings you already have. The other way that you can do it, which is super fun, is this function called request a story. If I click this request a story, then what this is going to do is actually similar to what I just did with my mom with the files. It will generate a request to my mom to actually record something. So I might say, okay, this is going to come into my collection. And then I might say something like this. Hi, mom, can you record the story of when we saw the bear in Yosemite National Park? And what I can do is, in addition to putting these instructions in, I can actually record a video of myself asking the question. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in, so just like I did when I recorded myself telling a story, I want to record myself asking my mom this question. So here it is. Hi, Mom. I'm too little to remember, but I was just a little kid. I may have been 3 or 4 years old, and we went to Yosemite National Park, and we were camping out, I think, in Uncle Lamar's camper, and a grizzly bear wandered into our campsite and was eating our food. And I'm just wondering if you can tell that story, because I can't remember all of the details, and I'm sure you remember it much better than I do. So thank you so much, Mom. Love you. So I record this. Hi, Mom. Okay, I put my little question in there. And then maybe I'll call it the the no, the Yosemite bear story, right? And I might give my mom, try it in 3 minutes. I might say, I prefer audio or video, or I don't care. Maybe I want video. You don't need to worry about this call to action stuff. That's for business users. And then I generate this code. So it's uploading this video. And again, I can put in my mother's email address and add it. Or I can just copy this QR code or link to the clipboard. I can DM her on Facebook or Instagram, however I normally communicate with my mother, or even send it to her in a text message, however I want to do it. So my mom is going to get this link in her email, and she can click on this link, or she can even scan the QR code that's in the link, and it on her phone, and she can actually record this on her phone if she wants to. So I'm just going to copy and paste the link in here that was generated. And now I can see, here's the little video of me asking my mother the question. So this is what my mom would see when she clicks on the message in the email that she's going to get from me. She would see a little video of me asking a question. Hi, Mom. I'm too little to remember. Right. And she's, oh, my son's asking me a question. That's fun. And then Mom's going to click next, and then she can record a little video herself. Now I'm going to pretend that I'm Mom. So she's going to record. Now she's on her phone. It would just use her phone camera. Oh, except I got to choose my different camera here. There we go. Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, son, thank you. That was such a fun trip when we went to Yosemite. We went, with your grandma and grandpa, and also Lamar and Lula. And we went also with your Uncle Barry and his wife Rako, and Marla and Keith and your cousin Stephanie. And we had so much fun up in Yosemite. And you're right, when we were in the campground, it was late in the evening. We had finished eating our dinner, but we hadn't really cleaned up everything yet. And you guys were in the camper, and Grandpa went fishing. And while he was fishing, this black bear just wandered into the campground and started putting his nose and stuff. And so we just banged pots and pans and made a lot of noise and scared that bear away. And then we quickly secured all of our food and everything, and hoped that the bear wouldn't come back in the middle of the night to our campground. All right. So Mom's she's recorded this story. And now, just like I did with the photos, she can send me that story. And so she hits the submit button, and now the story has been submitted. And if I go back into my Rakonto account, I'll see that the Yosemite bear story is now in there. Now it might still be processing because I still see these little bubbles. Let's see if I go into it. Okay, now it's done. So Mom's story is in there, all transcribed. If Mom had photos, I could request the photos from her, and she could attach photos with this story as well. And now I have this video. And again, if I want to share this with people, I can change this from draft to published. And now everybody that I, had shared my story with can now see that my mom has added a story about the bear that we saw at Yosemite. The possibilities of using this request a story are really, really amazing, because you can generate these QR codes. If I go here to requests, I can see here the share button. I can create this or copy this QR code. I can put it in an email, put it on social media. I can copy it to the clipboard. We've had a number of use cases. A friend of mine used it for his daughter's graduation. She got a scholarship to play soccer at a university, and so they held a big party for her. It's kind of her farewell / birthday party, because her birthday party was at the end of July, right before she was leaving for college. And they put the QR code at the entrance of the birthday party, and they asked everybody who came to the party to scan the QR code and share a story about his daughter. And so by the end of the night, he had 24 stories shared from his daughter's friends. It was really, really cool. Another friend that used it at his son's wedding, at the, near the guest book, they put the QR code and asked people who came to the wedding to scan the QR code and share memories of the bride and groom. Okay, Janine's asked a question: do all the videos automatically get transcription? And the answer is yes, on the paid plans, but not on the free version forever. Now, when I created an account, I just created my free 30-day trial, and I have access to all of the professional features. And so that's why I was able to see the transcript. But the free version software, if you do not upgrade within the 30 days, doesn't do the transcription. And the only reason for that is that the transcription actually costs me money. It's a service that we have to pay for, and we pay for the volume of the transcription. So every transcription that is done actually incurs a cost. And so financially, I'm just not able to offer it as part of the free version. But all of the paid versions of the software do have the transcription. And just for your information, here, if you click on your initials, you'll see a menu choice called subscription, and you can see the various subscriptions. You can see what's included in there. So here, the free version, it's free forever. You get 1 gig of total library capacity. Some people ask me, well, how much is that? We actually had our first user bump into the 1 gig limit, and she was doing the story request, and so the average videos that were coming back were 1 to 2 minutes long. Most of them were 2 minutes long, because she was asking for them to share some stories that had some weight to them. And she was able to get about, I think it was 47 stories into her database before she ran into the limit. So it's a pretty good size limit. The standard plan, it's only $7 a month if you pay annually, so it's not terribly expensive. It increases your capacity to 10 gigs, which is a lot. I mean, if I do the math, that would be the equivalent of 470 2-minute stories, which is a substantial amount. And that includes the automated transcription. Right now, the transcription only works in English. We've actually built out the back end to support some other languages, but we're still in the process of building out the front end user interface for multiple languages. But right now, everything's English. And then we have advanced, which adds more features, and professional. But for life stories, most people can get by with the free or the standard subscriptions. And the question really between the two of them is whether you want the automated transcription and then the storage. Okay, Janine just asked another question. Do you know about how many minutes recording time will be allowed on the free 1 gig plan? It's very difficult to say because different cameras have different resolutions and frame rates, and so that impacts it. If you look at a standard Zoom recording like we're doing now, the free version will do anywhere between 1.5 to an hour and 45 minutes. So 1.5 hours to 1 hour 45 minutes on Zoom. Whether that's in one Zoom call or if it's broken up into multiple Zoom calls. So Zoom typically will record in 1280 by 720, and yeah, you can get about 1.5 to an hour and 45 minutes from a Zoom call. Or, in the case of one of our users, she got about 47 stories that were about 2 minutes each. One thing that you can also do is sometimes files are sent to you, they're very high resolution. So if somebody's recorded things on their iPhone might be recording 4K resolution at 60 frames a second, and the files are enormous. And so you just can't get much out of that. But what we've tried to do is allow you to optimize your storage. So what you can do is, if I look at my profile here, you'll see there's a bunch of little icons on the left-hand side of the page, and there's one with a cloud, which is storage. Now, because I'm on the professional version right now, it's not giving me the option to optimize my storage. So I'm using 22 megs. I recorded that little video and it's taken about 22 megs of space. I actually have a couple of videos on there. I think I've got 2 stories and I'm using 22 megs. But if I were on the downgraded free forever version, or even some of the other versions that don't have limits, then I would see an option here that will allow me to optimize my storage. And basically what that does is says, okay, we keep all of the original recording and we have these optimized recordings. If you want to save your storage, you can get rid of the original recordings and just store the optimized recordings in Rakonto. My recommendation is, if you do that, to make sure that you download all the original recordings first. Just so you have them if you want to keep the originals. Put them on a hard drive somewhere, on a jump drive or something like that, and just have them for your own safekeeping. And then just keep the optimized versions in Rakonto, so that way you can have more efficient use of your storage. And so that's an important thing to keep in consideration as well. One other thing that I think is really important is to know your content is yours. Unlike posting things on YouTube and Facebook, where you're actually assigning away IP rights to those platforms, so they have the right to share content that you upload there. This content is yours, so we claim no ownership of any content that's uploaded. It's your content, and so you have total control over it. We don't assume any kind of IP rights on that at all. When users submit recordings in response to your request, they authorize you to use and share that recording. So in the case of my mother, putting her black bear story into the Yosemite story, when she records that, when she puts her name and her email address in there, she's actually authorizing you, the requester, to share that recording. So she's giving consent, but she's giving consent to you, the requester. She's not giving consent to us, Rakonto. We have no access to your account. We don't know. So all of that content is 100% yours. And you have total control over it. We just want to make sure that that message gets hammered in. All right, I've done lots and lots of talking, and we've just scratched the surface on things. But if you've got any other questions that you want to share in the 5 minutes we have left, feel free to put it in the chat, or just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask the question. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. Is it 100% secure? Well, it's as secure as the tools can be. We have not yet what do I want to say? We have not yet incorporated full two-factor authentication, but unless you share your name and your password, your username, your email address and password with other people, nobody else is going to go in there and see it. And I also might add, when you share a collection, so I've got my collection here, and I've kept it private, and I put in my mother's email address. If my mom says, oh, your Uncle Barry would love to see this, and she forwards the email to Barry, and Barry tries to access this collection by putting in his email address, because it's going to ask him for him to actually put in his email address, it won't work. It will only work with my mom's email address and her actually coming into Rakonto and creating an account to come in and view it. So the link is exclusive to her. She can't, even if she wants to, she forwards the email to other people, they won't be able to log in and see it. They would only be able to log in and see it if my mom shared her email address and her password with people. Then they could come in and see it. But in terms of the security, we take that seriously. Now, if you decide to make this public, then anybody can come in with the link and they can see that. But we leave that up to you. That's your decision as the user. You can decide how you want to share this content. It's not, it's not up to us. We give you the option if you want to keep it private or if you want to make it public. And again, that's again up to you. And I should also say, when you do share it with people, they again can come in and view this stuff, but they cannot make any changes. They can't edit it. The only way that they can do that is if you actually gave them privileges to do so. Here, there's a button called Invite Editor. Now, Invite Editor and request content are not available on the free versions of the plan. They're on the paid versions of the plan. But here, for example, if I wanted to ask my mom to just double check the transcript to make sure that everybody's names were spelled correctly, I could invite my mom as an editor, and then she could go in here and she could actually go into the transcript. She could go to edit and she could change things if she wanted to. She could also upload photos and files from here, or she could add things in the timeline and so on and so forth. But that's up to you. If you wanted to grant your mother access to do that, great. If not, you don't have to. Okay. Can multiple family members each have an account and share content between accounts? That's a great question, Desiree. So what we would recommend is that you have, let's say I've created an account and it's going to have the Napier family collection in there, right? So you can do this a couple of ways. One is you can do what we've done now. I've got one account and I can create different collections for the different people or whatever I want to do. And I can share those with people. And so they can all create free accounts. And it's important that I'm glad that you raised the question, Desiree. It's important to note that for people to come in and view collections, if I came in here and I share this collection with my mom, my collection does not count against her storage limit. So I can share as much as I want with my mom. It doesn't count against her storage limit. So they can all create accounts and I share this content and they can all come in and view it. Now, in this case, I am the only person that can make any changes or can add content here because it's my library and I have control over this library. Now, there are things you can do to give, you could do, say, for example, I've got 5 sisters and let's say we're all sharing stories, right? Well, my sister can have some stories on her account and I can have some stories on my account. And then what we're doing is we're just basically sharing collections with each other, right? But only one user has access to edit the collections that are in their library, and so we're all just sharing stuff with each other. So now, if you wanted to, create like one central library that everybody was contributing to, what I would recommend is that you use the request a story feature to get contributions for the other members of the family. So if you are kind of the key master of the family memory library, and I've got my 5 siblings and I want them to share stories, but I'm going to manage the curation, all of that, then, if they want to create counts, fine. But I'm the one that's building all the collections in here, and I'm building all the stories. And if I want stuff from them, if I want them to record things, then I can just send them requests and they can record those and they'll just show up in my collection. So there's various ways to do it. It's just whatever satisfies you the most. Okay. Janine says, what happens when someone dies and had stories on Rakonto, but family members didn't have accounts, then nothing was shared? Can they contact Rakonto for access? Yeah, we're actually putting into place. We don't have the functionality in here. We've got about half of it done. We're putting plans in place so that you can actually transition the ownership of the collection from one account to another. One thing that we've done is we have created the ability for you to assign the management of a library to another user. If I click here, I can, on my profile, I can see this little link that says team members. And then I can add a member here. And that person, I'm actually granting them access to manage the library on my behalf. So in that situation, it could be, for example, my mother has granted me access to manage her library. And so, I would go in here, I would put in the email address of the person. So let's say I give it to this person, Christian at Rakonto.io, and I add this person and they can manage my library. But there are some caveats to that. Only professional or users subscribed to the professional plan can actually manage libraries on behalf of other people. The original intent with the library management was to allow professional oral historians or family historians to manage the libraries of their clients. So I could put this in here, I could add this, and now Christian Napier has access to actually manage the entire library on my behalf. And if that were the case, even if I passed away, my library is still there and Christian can still manage the library. So the other part of that, which we have not yet implemented, is saying I actually want to nominate this person, Christian, as my legacy or beneficiary for the library, so that in the event that something happens, I can then, this person here, Christian, can then assume the full control of the account. All right, well, Desiree, and thank you, Janine, thank you very much for the kind comments. Do we have any other questions? One thing that I will do is, let me do this. I'm going to just put this link in the chat here. This is a link to my calendar. So if you have any further questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I got your back. No, don't worry about like, oh, I got to pay for your time or anything. No, just give me a call or set up a meeting here in the calendar. And I'd love to have a conversation with any of you and answer any further questions that you might have. All right. Also, if you would like, what I'm going to do is I will post this the recording. I'll download it and everything, get it ready, and then I'll make this available to people to view it. I'll put it on our YouTube channel, and when that happens, I'm happy to send people a link. But in the meantime, again, if you've got any questions, you can schedule time with me. You can send me an email. My email address, I'll put it here in the chat as well. There's my email address, so you're more than welcome to email me with any questions that you have, or if you want to schedule time on my calendar, you can do that as well. So once again, everyone, I really appreciate your time, and I thank you all for spending an hour of your day to learn about Rakonto. And I wish you all the best as you go about recording and sharing your life's most important stories. Thank you so much.